Democrats controlled the federal government hostage because they want to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants. All that on the other day. Welcome back to The Other Day with me, your host, coming at you pre-recorded from my home studio here in deep in the heart of Rocky, Colorado. I have to write that down some days. Today is the 1st of October. Happy fall. The weather still hasn't changed. It was 80 today and I wore flannel and Red Wing Iron Rangers. So, not my smartest decision, but I'm tired of wearing shorts. But we got a lot to cover today. It is the 1st of October and the government is shut down. There's a lot to get through, so we're just going to jump on into it. There's going to be flowcharts and pictures and Hakeem Jeffries wearing sombreros. It's going to be fun. So, the Dems have decided that it'd be better to shut down the government than to simply sign off on a budget plan for the next year. But according to them, it's the Republicans' fault. Chucky Shue and Sombrero Jeffries have shut down the government because Trump refused to give illegals free health care, and now the government is shut down. But honestly, though, and I'm seeing this question a lot, and even just talking to my wife, why? Why is the government being shut down for this? For those of you not fully aware on what the government shutdown means, let me break it down in a non-kind of government nerdy way. Towards the end of every year, or at least in the middle at least, the federal government writes up a budget containing 3 key points, those being mandatory spending, which are for programs that are required by law, such as Social Security, Medicare, and veteran benefits. This is determined by existing law and does not require congressional approval. Discretionary spending, which is spending for federal agencies such as the defense budget, education, and transportation. Transportation, not trannies. For any leftist confused watching this, there's a difference between transportation and transgenders. I just want to be clear. Okay. And then the last one is interest on debt, the cost of borrowing money. Now the process is fairly simple. You can look it up and then be completely confused, or you can do what I did and ask ChatGPT to break it down for you. Now the first stage in this process starts in about early February, so just a year after the new year starts. The process starts with the U.S. president writing up a budget proposal that outlines funding for federal agencies, tax policies, and long-term economic goals. This is usually, like I said, in early February. Usually if a... Hi, baby. Hi, Stinkabutt. Did your mama not grab you? Basically, this is a blueprint, not law, but it does set the tone for debates on this budget between the House, Democrats in the House and the Republicans in the House, and also Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. Now, the second part of this phase is where the House and the Senate both draft budget resolutions informed by the president's proposals, but they are not bound by it. After some debates, they compromise on a joint budget resolution, which sets what we mentioned prior. This is what the president wants to do. Let's kind of compromise and figure this out. This usually happens in April. That's what the internet has been saying. Now, the third step in this process is the appropriation process. Congress divides discretionary spending, the part not on autopilot, like Social Security, Medicare, into 3 appropriation bills, each governing an area, i.e. defense, transportation, not trannies, and health. The House and Senate Appropriations Committee hold hearings, mark up bills, and vote. Both chambers must pass all 12 bills, then reconcile differences. This usually takes, May to September, so most part of the summer. So this past summer was pretty much about this. And then right in the middle, Trump passed the big, beautiful bill. But we'll get to that in a second. The fourth stage in this process is presidential approval. Once Congress passes appropriation bills, the president signs them into law or vetoes them. If all 12 are signed by October the 1st, the start of the new fiscal year, the government is fully funded, and the deadlines for this stage of the process is October 1st, like I said, the beginning of the new fiscal year. The fifth stage in this is continuing resolutions and omnibus bills if needed. So this is if something doesn't pass and we fix it. If Congress can't finish on time, they may pass a continuation resolution, CR, or otherwise known as a clean resolution, to keep funding at current levels temporarily, while they figure crap out. Sometimes, instead of 12 separate bills, they pass a massive omnibus bill that rolls everything together. Now, the sixth phase of this is budget execution and oversight for the fiscal year. Agencies spend money according to the appropriations. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, and congressional committees oversee spending to ensure it follows the law. In short, President proposes, Congress sets a resolution, appropriation bills fund agency, the President signs, agency spends, and Congress oversees. Here's a flow chart for those of you to see that. Please take a screenshot of it so you can understand, and when you hear Democrats talking about this on the news, you can kind of follow along and understand if they bring up certain phases. So why the shutdown? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm really sorry I made you watch that. But not really, because if I have to suffer, you have to suffer. Anyways, if Congress can't fully agree on what to send the president for his signature, then they will sign a clean continuing resolution, like we said earlier, the clean resolution, to temporarily fund the federal government until Congress can find a solution that makes everyone happy and avoids a shutdown. If that can't happen, however, the government shuts down until both sides can find a solution. The reason for the shutdown this time is over healthcare, specifically free healthcare for legal aliens. We've had many government shutdowns in our history, but the last three happened in 2013, 2018, and the beginning part of 2019. In 2013, it was over the Affordable Health Care Act under Obama, ACA, where congressional Republicans threatened the shutdown if certain parts of the ACA were not defunded or at least delayed, which resulted in a 16-day shutdown, where in the end a clean resolution was passed with only minor changes made. In 2018, a 3-day shutdown occurred when Senate Democrats blocked a spending bill, insisting it included protections for immigrants covered by the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program. I remember that fairly well. It was actually quite stupid. Right after that, a 35-day shutdown happened in 2018 to 2019, the longest in its history, was triggered by President Trump's demand for $5.7 billion to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexican border. Democrats refused, and the shutdown ended without wall funding after a temporary deal was reached. This happened during my senior year, actually, and it's actually written in our... It was written, there's a whole section in my senior year book about this. And I remember at the time when it was happening, that people were complaining and freaking out about really nothing, honestly. And don't get me wrong, a government shutdown affects a lot of people, but high schoolers don't really see that unless their family is on certain issues. But the thing, it was a 35-day halt, and really, it resoluted and passed. And honestly, and the thing with that, it's the same thing. It was already signed. The Democrats just did not want to give him that, and they're already fighting over this. But I digress. A government shutdown isn't new. There has always been a funding gap. This time around, though, the Democrats, who hold a minority in the government, are trying to push back against Trump's big, beautiful bill, which was passed on July 4th, 2025. We're going to call it the BB bill for short, because I'm not going to say the big, beautiful bill every single time. It's just not going to happen. The BB bill... I wish it was like the big, beautiful, wonderful bill, so then I could call it the BBW bill. That would be fun. Anyways, the BB bill was the largest tax cut for middle-class and working-class Americans. More parts of this bill include more take-home pay for families, no tax on tip, overtime, and on Social Security, increases the child tax credit for more than 40 million families, permanently secures the southern border, drives down energy costs, a tax deduction on goods made in America, which there should never have been a higher tax on goods made in America. There should be a higher tax on goods made outside of America. There's no reason why we shouldn't be self-sufficient. Just saying. It protects American farms from punitive double taxation, restoring fiscal sanity, no more random spending on trannies in the military getting sex change operations. We're not doing that. If that's what you want to do personally, you go do that personally. That is not a state-funded thing we should be doing. Strengthens Medicaid by cutting healthy males and illegal aliens from receiving Medicaid. funds the Golden Dome defense system, and modernizes the military. I think everyone, can point key details on why the Democrats aren't so happy with this bill, but again, they're the minority, so they lost and the bill passed and will be put into action the following year. The biggest reason Chuck E. Chew and Sombrero Jeffries have shot down the clean resolution right before the cutoff date of the new fiscal year is, again, because of illegal aliens not receiving free healthcare anymore. But they've decided to mask it by just saying it's over healthcare. Now, the Democrats' counterproposal doesn't explicitly say free healthcare to illegal aliens, but it doesn't have to. Honestly, the American people see what's happening, and, they have been seeing this as a talking point on the left. Regardless if Chuck E. Chew or Sombrero Jeffrey says it's for unauthorized immigrants, it's obvious what is being pushed. But why here? Why are the Dems making a simple budget plan a hill to die on? Well, it's much deeper than you think, and it actually has to do with a lot of in-party politics. But again, I'm not going to go too hard on this point. It's a lot of boring bullcrap that you, the American people, should not have to suffer because Chuck E. Chew is a bit. Part of the deeper reason is that Chuck E. Chew and other congressmen on the left are being threatened by their more fanatical and radical colleagues and their bases. Chuck E. Chew specifically is afraid that if he works with Congress Republicans, he'll look soft, which is kind of ridiculous because they're supposed to represent us, the people, regardless of party, but okay. The biggest one he's afraid of is that his super leftist colleagues in Congress, like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Len Omar, the super left squad people, will primary him in his next election, and he'll lose his power as Senate Minority Leader. The shutdown, however, was already not looking well for the Dems, as a New York Times poll. New York Times, not really a bastion of conservatism news-wise. But a poll by the New York Times showed that 65% to 27% of Americans are against shutting down the government. And this is the thing, right? When will the Dems realize their crappy policies are failing and they don't have the support of the people? Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris was trounced in this last election, the last presidential election that happened last year. Both the popular and the Electoral College. And I said this in the last video, this has not happened for a Republican since Ronald Reagan in 1984. But what are Chuck E. Chew and the Dems more mad about? Honestly, they say it's for healthcare. They say it's for, they want illegal aliens to have free healthcare. Is it, they say out loud that it's Chuck E. Chew is afraid to be primaried by AOC and Rashida Tlaib? No, it's because Donald Trump's racist and put out an AI meme with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero. Bruh. I'm not kidding. So, to conclude an already fairly long video, I really just rattled through that. There's going to be texts and other things to look at. Working on making all of our sources open to the public so people can see. The Democrats are holding the federal government hostage because their leadership is afraid of the radicals in their party. Instead of passing a simple budget to keep people from losing their jobs and everyday Americans to keep their benefits that some need, whether it's veteran benefits, Medicaid, or WIC for parents who don't have a lot and, rely on WIC to be able to buy food for their children and their families, the Dems are dead set on making the American people suffer to get their way. It's what they've always been, really. A loud minority controlling the majority, whether it's speech, action, taxes, you name it. They're hypocrites, by the way, as long as, as well as being Democrats, which is already a negative against you in my opinion, but they're hypocrites. Speaker Johnson of the House had a TV outside his office showing prominent Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, and plenty others, saying that a government shutdown is unnecessary and should not be a tool used against any form of government inside the government. But don't let them gaslight you. They do not care about us. They're going to go out and say, well, the Republicans are doing this because they don't want to do healthcare. This is not the moment to be discussing this. This isn't the moment. This was about a budget plan to make sure the federal government is funded for the next year in 2026, but instead they're making it about healthcare. And this is the thing, right? If they wanted to talk about healthcare, all they would have to do, pass the budget, come back in November and into the next year and discuss plans for a healthcare system, because it does need to be fixed, let's be completely honest. A healthcare system that everyone can be happy about. But instead they're making us suffer because they're a bunch of put. And to those who say the Republicans have done the same thing in the past, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. They have done this in the past. Both sides have done this. I showed you 3 examples from recently in the last 10 years. Last 10, 11, 12, 15 years. But this has been something that has happened since the beginning of our government. We need to be better about finding a solution that benefits the American people instead of plain party politics. And this is something that both the right and the left agrees on. You had several Republicans come out and say that, even Mike Johnson himself, and I think he's a representative or a senator, I can't tell. If I get it wrong, I'll put it up. But Representative Thune saying the same thing. You even had Democrats on the left saying that. You had Fetterman and a few of his colleagues who actually did vote on the bill in the Senate to pass the clean resolution that already passed the House. So this is the problem when it really boils down to it. What this is the minority dictating life for the majority of people. Americans don't want free healthcare for illegal aliens who don't pay taxes. Americans don't want able-bodied men to get Medicare when they don't need it, when they themselves need it and they can't get it. Americans don't want radical leftist ideas in their country. They don't. They showed us that in the last election, and hopefully they show that again to us in the following midterms that are coming up this next year. And I think what all this does is really just hurt the Democrats, because we're going into the midterms, and usually the Republicans don't do good in the midterms. It's usually the left is really good. The public gets 2 years of Republicanism, and they're like, I don't like everything. Maybe we kind of balance out the power. My honest to God hope is this is Trump's last time, regardless of what people want to say, if he's going to run again or not release the reins of power, which is idiotic by any measure of thinking, honestly. This is just hurting the Democrats. They don't know where they're at with their party and their base anymore, because honestly, they've kind of lost the culture war. I used to think it was the other way around for the longest time, but ever since November of last year, I've really changed my tune on this. The conservative party and the right is winning the culture war again. If you don't believe me, you just remember almost a month ago they killed Charlie Kirk, who went out there and was engaging these cultures. And someone who was on the left, by the way, don't let them get it twisted, went out and killed him because he didn't like what he was saying. And if the left wanted to save their asses, what they should have done, and not to make this a Charlie Kirk thing, but what they should have done is to come out and say, we denounce violence, period. We apologize for calling Republicans and people on the right Nazis and fascists for the last 10 years. But they didn't. They're holding to it, and by God, they are losing. They are losing. Take hope in this. They are losing the war right now. The war for minds, the war for your tax dollars, they're losing it. The big beautiful bill gives you and me a big tax cut as smaller people. I'm a nobody, but I pay my taxes. And I'm sick and tired of seeing it go to people who come into this country illegally, who don't pay taxes, and to foreign countries that aren't America. I don't want to see that anymore. So no, this is 100% squarely on the Democrats. This could have been fixed. They could have fought on other things. But Chucky Shoe and Sombrero Jeffries, I don't know. They're holding us, the American people, hostage because they don't like that they've lost. And so now they're taking it out on us. Do not be mistaken. Well, hey, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe if you could. That'd be great. It really help us move and build this channel up. Share it with some friends. You know, send it to your left-leaning friends to show them that, you know, this is 100% a Democrat issue. If you want to see a longer form podcast, please check out For the Boys podcast, where myself and my friend Parker do a longer form podcast where we talk more about these issues a little bit more in depth, and kind of get a good mix on politics and so on. We also make some jokes and kind of have some more lighthearted sections. It's a dark time, so please don't isolate yourselves. But hey, again, appreciate it. Go back to church, dig into that word, love your family, grow stronger bonds. Go out and join a TPUSA chapter. Go out and make a difference. God bless.